on this computer. Okay.
Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you all for showing up once again for another amazing episode of the New Earth Self-Leadership Academy. So, today, well, first of all, I just want to say I love you and I forgive you and I accept you so we can go ahead and get our foundations right. So, today we're going to be we're going to go over some of the relationship stuff that we were talking about last week. We're going to
we'll talk about what happens in the channels and gates when we come together with any other person, whether it's a romantic partner or a child. I was about to say a spouse, like that's not romantic. A child, a parent, a coworker, a friend, whomever. So we'll speak about the channels and there's 4 different types, right? 4 different things that can happen with the channels. And then we'll briefly go over the different configurations of centers, both defined and undefined, and how that kind of structures the relationship between 2 people. Yeah?
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay, so shall we begin?
Yeah, begin. So now when you're talking about channels, you mean
compromise?
Yeah, we're talking about it. Okay.
Yeah. I didn't know how else to say it.
Yeah. I'm like, what the channel? Okay.
The electromagnetic channels and so forth.
Yeah, so
I have those on this side.
Yeah, so what we're talking about now, do you guys, we can go off of what we sent them already, right? Should they re-pull that back up again?
Oh, yeah, that's still in the room, so they can look at that if they want to, but I think we can explain it fairly easily.
Okay. So each and every configuration has like a specific theme to it whenever you come together with a person. So what she was talking about earlier when she was talking about the channels, so you have specific sections within a relationship chart whenever we run 2 charts together, we can literally put them together and then this extra set of just modalities on the side pops up. But one of them is one of the levels is the companionship level. And if you were to run 2 charts together and for the first line, if you were to see companionship, what that literally means is that you guys share a specific channel together. And because you share that channel together, literally it's like you can see eye to eye when it comes to certain issues. So for example, I believe me and Michelle, we share the channel of judgment together. So when it comes to judgment, when it comes to things like that, we kind of are in the same boat. Like we don't really rock the boat when it comes to that. So when you have relationships and you have a specific, if you're like a companion with them and things start to get rocky or shaky, then a lot of times as companions, it's like you guys will fall back on this specific energy. So you'll have a better time at dealing with stuff or, maybe getting over things or transforming with your partner because you're more like a companion. You're on the journey with them.
Yeah. So when you have this companionship channel, so let's just really briefly go over it just in case anybody's still not clear. So you can have a totally empty channel, meaning neither gate is activated. You can have, is it called a hanging gate, where there's 1 gate activated and 1 gate not activated?
Yes.
So a gate activated, but the other side is not activated, so it's white on your chart. Or you can have a full channel. A channel means each gate on either side is activated and connecting. When you have a full channel, that's what defines the 2 centers on either end. So you can't have a defined center unless you have a channel connecting that center to another center. Now, in terms of the black and red, the black gates and lines are conscious. The red gates and lines are unconscious. We're not going to get into that nuance. For the purposes of what we're discussing tonight, it doesn't matter. it does matter in actuality, but whether your dominance channel is in red or black or your companionship channel, it's still a companionship channel, whether it's red or black. Mm-hmm. So again, you can have a full channel, which is the 2 gates activated. You can have 1 gate activated, which is known as a hanging gate when the other side is empty, or you can have both sides empty, and then that's just a white line.
That's just open.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you know.
Oh, and the stripe. Just because someone's asking, when you see it striped red and black, that means it's unconscious, but it can become conscious.
Yes, and when you become conscious of it, it's like you having conscious connection to your subconscious. Yeah. This is how it will play out.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're saying if 2.
Okay, hold on.
If 2 gates are not defined, then it's a companionship channel?
No. Companionship channel means I have 18 and 58 both activated, both. You don't call it defined, you call it activated.
Okay, activated.
Defined refers to the center. So I have 18 activated and I have 58 activated. Companionship happens because Kayvon also has 18 and 58 activated. So we both share an activated a channel, defined channel.
Okay. So that's not compromising. That's
no. We'll get to that one later.
Okay.
And when both of you have totally white in the channel, it doesn't even come up.
No.
You're just both open there.
Yeah. So also dealing with relationships that have companionship channels. One of the things also to look out for is what I've been learning and just even experiencing, but it's not a good thing or a bad thing. What I'm noticing about the companionship relationship is that it's less sparky.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's like a comfy couch.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And your energy feels, you'll feel real, safe and secure and comfortable with this person. But it's kind of like, you've always been with this person. So we've been kind of I've been feeling like this is like the signal of like more of a soulmate activity, like a soulmate connection. Even though I feel like almost all of our relationships are like soulmate connections, within all relationships, we have something to learn from each other, so we're all souls relating to each other on this ship. So, you know what I mean? I feel like all relationships are like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I do notice that, not every relationship has companionship. So
yeah, and Rod does talk about that. So he talks often about like this sort of genetic pull towards difference and otherness.
Mm-hmm.
So basically the way he describes it is, if you have a full channel activated and you go to a party and there's 2 other people with that channel activated, you're not going to be drawn towards them because it's sameness. And genetically, you don't feel like, oh, I have to have that. So we tend to be drawn to what we don't have. So same thing with the centers. I'm solar plexus undefined, Kayvon's is defined. Oh, we get drawn together. We get drawn towards the difference.
Mm-hmm.
And, we can understand that just on a biological level that the gene pool needs to mix up, but also on a learning level.
So, but what's going on right now is what I'm noticing is a lot more of companionship relationships starting to pop up because of the times that we're going through. We're going through these transformational times. It's like we're all being called together. So now you're going to start to see more and more companionship type of relationships coming together, whether it's intimate relationships or whether it's just friends. But literally, like, I've been seeing a lot of that just over the past couple of years of just more and more companionship channels all over throughout in Arizona. That's all I was seeing. It was so many people with companionship, just that companionship vibe. So what I'm noticing is just we're all starting to come back together because we're pretty much done with the learning with just certain trial and error. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, and then in 2027, that's when the solar plexus of the species will be completed in its process of self-definition. So all the children born from 2027 onward, you won't be able to lie to them. There's all types of things happening to us as a collective species like that right now. So that's probably in tune with what you're speaking with. So yeah, so companionship, again, you have a fully activated channel. Your partner has the exact same channel fully activated. That's known as companionship. It's a feeling of sameness, familiarity. It makes it easy to spend a lot of time together because there's not that, there's not a, we'll talk about the other ones. Yeah. So this is the one that, well, you can't really say any of them are positive or negative. This is the one that just, this is the only one that's comfortable. Let's say that. Yeah. This is the one that's totally comfortable.
Yeah.
The only one.
Yeah. And you can have, and I've seen certain charts with more than one companionship channel. Mm-hmm. So the more companionship channels, then the less it's like water, and it's like fire and water. It seems like a balance between like the electromagnetic and the companionship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The more companionship channels you have, the more water will be doused in the relationship. The less, the more fire. You know.
Yeah, especially with some of these other ones.
Okay, so
you ready?
We can go to the next.
Which one do you want to do next?
So the next one we can go to is the dominance channel. So what you'll notice in the relationship charts, when we do a relationship reading, you'll have something which is called dominance. And dominance is just like, I would say, because when we get deeper into doing the Saturn return readings, once we make it there, it's more so, I wouldn't say dominance, but I would say more so like education. But dominance meaning you bring this specific channel to the relationship. So if I have channel 1949 and Michelle has nothing within that lineup, so what it means is that I bring the complete channel to that line. Hold on. It's out of my hand.
So he's got the full channel. I've got nothing. This is going to be the open gates. Mm-hmm. So this is me. This is Kayvon. So his channel creates dominance.
Yes. So the reason why I like to call it education is because I bring that complete channel to the relationship. So I'm going to be educating her within, with this specific energy. Yeah. And it's like exactly like that.
Yeah. So when someone else has a dominance channel that has a channel that you don't have, you will be learning a lot about whatever that channel constitutes.
Yes.
That's the positive side of it.
That's the positive side of it. Now, now if you can, I don't even know the negative. The only negative side I would see is just the learning aspect of, you not having that energy. So, for example, whenever we come around each other, we imprint. So my 49 and 19 gate will imprint onto her energy.
Yeah.
So now all of a sudden you'll be kind of doused with this extra sensitive energy because that's the channel of sensitivity.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess we're kind of doing them in an interesting order because dominance isn't that far off from because I don't have either one of those gates, it's not like rubbing me any type of way.
Yes.
But it is something that's there. Like I'm definitely noticing that I am more aware about sensitivity when I'm with you. Mm-hmm. Definitely more than when I'm by myself and I don't have 19 or 49. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't, we'll give the contrast when we come to compromise. So again, dominance is one partner has the full channel, the other partner has neither gate activated in the channel.
Yeah, so that partner is going to be dominating as far as when it comes to that energy. That partner is going to be bringing that entire field into the relationship. So it doesn't mean you're dominating over the person and the one person is like more of the boss than the other one. It's just some people bring a lot to a relationship. Some people bring more of a receptive quality. Some people bring more of an active quality.
Well, could you, instead of saying dominance, you could almost call it the imprinter?
Yeah,
or something?
It can definitely be the imprinter, but in the cycle readings, it's the education channel. So, and it makes sense. It makes sense because You're literally learning. Like,
wait, you mean the dominance channels are called the education
channel?
Okay,
yes.
yeah, that seems like a better.
Yes.
That's a more neutral name.
Yeah.
I like that name because I don't feel. I do feel I could see dominance in the sense of like the sensitivity does become a dominant theme because it's not going anywhere. So now I feel like it is kind of a dominant theme that maybe I wouldn't notice as much when I'm not with you. So what you want to be aware of is that when we get into relationships, there's just as unique as you are, every relationship is unique. So the things that are activated and stimulated when Kayvon and I come together, I don't get that with anyone else. He doesn't get that with anyone else. So, and there's certain things that will happen within a partnership that don't happen anywhere else. So I can actually only know Kayvon through this certain framework. I can't, especially because he has this open G center, I don't know what Kayvon is like around, with Ian or Kelly or Heather or Michael. Like that's a different experience that I can't actually have with him, interestingly, if that makes sense.
Yes. So the dominance, whenever a person do bring the dominance, just remember all of the open lines within your system, it behaves sort of like the open centers, meaning you'll feel that energy and you'll amplify at times too. So it'll become apparent within the relationship. So this is why I believe he may have used the word dominate, because it becomes so like,
right. Yeah.
It becomes so
right.
Because it's just like, the open centers within its, sensitivity. So,
okay. So we've done companionship where you share a channel, dominance where one partner has the full channel and the other partner doesn't. Which one do you want to do next?
So the next we go to compromise.
Compromise is one partner has the full channel and one partner has one gate activated and the other gate open. So for example, do we have an example in ours?
I know 33 and 13.
Yeah. So I have the full 33-13. Kayvon only has 33. So Kayvon, I cause him to compromise because I have the full channel. He only has one gate. So,
actually, what it is because you have the entire channel. It would be you doing some of the compromising. Because my energy, because it's like I'm learning from you.
Okay.
So it's almost like slowing down. It's like, if you're the teacher, right, and I'm the student, you have to kind of slow down a little bit so that I can so you're gonna have to compromise your flow. You're gonna have to compromise your flow a little bit so that I can catch up.
Okay, that makes sense. I thought it was like you would have to do the compromise because your 33 is trying to control the energy, but it can't because it doesn't have the other side, and I have the full control of the channel. Yeah,
no, it wouldn't. The 33, whenever we have the opposites of the energy, it's seeking out the other side. Yeah. So it knows it's not going to be dominating. It's just seeking out.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's more so like, I want that 13, so I'm like totally glued in. And waiting. But what happens is with the compromise, because you might have to slow down so much, depending on how many compromise channels you have, it still is electromagnetism. So this is when the energy starts to switch up a little bit, and you start to have like the sparks. So the compromise channels, you have compromise, and then after this is going to be electromagnetic, meaning you can have one gate and then the other person has the other gate, and when you come together, you form a spark. So when you have the compromises, because this one person has the energy of it already, this new person comes in, it's totally feeling the spark. So the person that's compromising, you have to kind of be there for that person, because that person is getting sparked by the energy that you have always been used to. So it creates, so if you have a lot of compromise channels, it's almost the same as having a bunch of electromagnetic channels, because it's still going to be some sparking going on. And when we mean by spark, it's just literally the channels coming together, and it really forms like this is what makes people, when you see someone and something that it draws you to them, or so, you can see them for an instant, and there'll be something about them that's just pulling you. It's because they may have the opposite gate of you. So if they have that opposite gate, when you guys come together, it forms the channel. And you just got to know the channel within the human design. The energy is always looking to form channels so that you can have clear communication from this side to that side.
So we kind of skipped to electromagnetic. So
no, it's not really skipping. It's
okay.
Because it's the same thing.
I see what you mean.
It's more, it's more so. It's more like the same energy. So if you have a bunch of compromised channels within your charts, this is the reason why a lot of people, it causes a lot of arguments. I would say just when you just go a little bit just closer into, it can cause a lot of static, depending on how much of the energy is sparking. So just know that it has that quality within it, and it's just one person having to slow down a little bit more so that the other person can, adjust to the energy. Now we can go down to the electromagnetic.
Okay, so just reviewing, compromises. One person has the full channel, the other person has one gate open and one gate activated.
Half of the channel.
Yeah, so the electromagnetic is next.
Yes.
Would you say this is the most sparky?
Yes.
I just have clarification with the compromising.
Yeah.
Okay. So for you guys on the 33, 3313, who did you say is the one that's compromising in that situation? How can you tell who's compromising and who's not? Like how do you tell which one is which?
Or both.
Well, you're saying the person who
Yes.
has the full channel has to compromise because they have to slow down for the person who only has one of the gates in the channel.
Perfect. Okay, thank you.
So I was taking it to mean that it was more similar to the dominance channel, where the person with only one gate had to compromise. But I can see it actually, because whenever we talk about writing projects, I get super frustrated. And you're like, oh, but it's going to take time. And because the 3313 is the full storyteller all the way. It's what makes me want to write fiction obsessively. And when I get frustrated because I feel like I'm not spending enough time doing that, Kayvon is real lackadaisical and patient about it. And I'm not. So I can see if that's an example that I do feel like I have to compromise with that. And it is very frustrating. But it's something that happens a lot. So, okay. So the fourth one, electromagnetic. One person has one gate with the other one open, and the other partner has that gate with the opposite one open. So they come together and they make a full channel where separately they each have a hanging gate. So for example, a real good example is the 59 and 6. I think that's probably the most zingy, or maybe the 35, 36, because these are real sexual gates. So 59, the 6 gate of conflict, 59, is it called fertility?
Yeah. They
come together, hooks up the emotional center, hooks up a big sexual vibration, and there's this incredible attraction that happens when you have an electromagnetic channel together, but that attraction is then followed by repulsion. So it's a back and forth. It's
yes. Yes, so it can cause, the electromagnetic part, it can be real, it can be real good in the beginning.
That's what's going to draw you to, so the total opposite of companionship. You go to a party, someone has the same channel as you, there's not a zing. You go to a party, you have gate 6, they have gate 59, you're going to be attracted to them. And incidentally, everyone's going to be attracted to whoever has gate 59 activated, because that is a real powerful gate. Mm-hmm. But regardless, we are attracted to people who can activate our hanging gates and make a full channel with us. Yes.
So it will definitely give off that electromagnetic spark. So it's just like anything, you know, I feel like everything is, you know, everything has a balance to it. Now, some people have 5, 6, 7, you know, electromagnetic centers activated.
That's going to be drama.
You know, then you have, you know, a couple compromised channels activated. So depending on how many compromised and how many electromagnetic channels you have activated, it'll give you an idea of how much like electromagnetic activity, you know, is just literally going off within your relationship. So like I say, in the beginning, this is something that is very, you know, it's like I said, it's just like sparks going off in the beginning. This is how you have those supercharged up relationships at first, but then after a while, it starts to get kind of just you start to lose feeling.
Yeah, it can kind of it's almost like it gets overstimulated and it can wear it out.
Yes. And the reason why you lose the feeling is because of the overstimulation. Mm-hmm. So if you are in these type of relationships, then, you know, it's going to require for you to have a lot of breaks to be needed and taken, because the energy, you know, it's just literally, it's like just turned on all the time. So if you have so much of that energy turned on all the time, you know, it's just common sense. You can see it's just keep rubbing it. Eventually it's going to get raw and you're not going to be able to feel it. And then it's going to start to get annoying. And then this is when you start having the bad sparks. And then, you know, where the energy is just constant, and then the energy just really wants to be apart. But if we know that this is going on and we know that we have a lot of energy within our relationships, it's up to us now with this knowledge to take it upon ourselves to make the proper decision and to, you know, and to be adults about it and to respect each other about it. Because the reason why we're even doing this is so that we can learn and respect each other's just space and territory. Like we all are sovereign spiritual beings. So we deserve that respect. You know, we deserve to be, you know, if we need solitude, we deserve to go and get that solitude. Mm-hmm. If we need to be a hermit, then we need to be a hermit. And that means really, you know, silence, and I need my space. If we need to travel, then we need to travel and see the world and be open and be free. So it's all about honoring each other and respecting each other for just who we are. But when you get these little, you know, insights into your relationships, it can literally, you know, help you to deal with a lot of, you know, just specific little bugs within a relationship that can grow to be huge things if you don't really try to go in to understand each other.
Yeah. So an example, if you look at me and Kayvon in my charts, he has gate 27. I have gate 50. What is that, from the sacral to the spleen? Yeah. So that becomes the channel of the custodian. Yes. And everywhere we go,
it's real.
We are the custodians. And I'm really glad we know this, because if I didn't know this, I would not still be here. And I'm serious, because it's like a real thing. And it's like, it's a theme of our life everywhere we go, that no matter what happens, when Kayvon and I together, we're the custodian. So if I want to be in partnership with him, that's something I have to accept, that is part of the package. And just like anything else, it's not totally positive. It's not totally negative. It is what it is. So the beautiful, evolutionary, exciting phenomenon of human design provides us with the ability to finally be in an actual relationship with the real person right now. So I'm not going to get into partnership with this being and think, oh, if I just work with him, I can shift him so he won't be emotional, and I can structure our relationship so that we won't have the responsibility of custodians, and I can, make him hurry up and get, in pace with me as a manifesting generator with the full 3313 who wants her story finished being written yesterday. That is never going to happen. And because we have these blueprints now, we don't have to put each other into that horrible, suffering situation of trying to make each other something that we're not, and trying to make the being, Kev Shell, Mishan, whatever it would be called, trying to make that being something other than what it is, because it is what it is. Our channels, our gates don't change. The transits that we go through, Saturn returns, Uranus opposition, Chiron, etc., those will change, the weather will change, but the fundamental nature of who he is, who I am, and who we are as an entity together is not going to change. So you mentioned, being mature about it. We can finally show up and love the actual person instead of these sort of projects to try to change or shift or manipulate each other or hope someone will grow into something. I will always be this 6-3 manifesting generator. He will always be this 3-5 projector. So now I can actually have a relationship with this person instead of projections and imaginations and wishes.
Yes.
And that's really important because a lot of relationships are spending a lot of time trying to make either yourself or the other person or the couple something it isn't.
Yes.
Anything else to say about that?
No. I mean,
okay, so again, electromagnetic, one gate, one partner has one gate activated, the other gate open. The other partner has the opposite going on. When they come together, they create a full channel where there is none. So, I also was in a relationship. I have gate 6. I was in a relationship with someone who only had gate 59. Neither of us were emotionally defined. When we came together, we created emotional definition. So imagine 2 undefined solar plexus amplifying. So now you have like 4 times the emotionality. And it was super dramatic. There was lots of conflicts going on with that, but there was also this incredible attraction. So just being aware that, these electromagnetic channels can also create definition in centers where both partners have no definition. So that's something to be aware of as well. Okay. How do we find out the names of these channels once we've created them in our relationship chart? You got to have either the software or one of the books. Yeah. One of the basic human design books goes through everything. The beauty of the software is that
what do you mean, like the
how do you know that it's called like the custodian channel?
Oh yeah, definitely. The software, so, you either you have the software or maybe you have one of the books.
One
or
of the
like that.
main, foundational human design books that does go through every gate and every channel. But
when we get, I'm sorry to cut you off, but when we do the reading, you will learn it then also. So depending on how far you get within your sessions, we go over the channels. So you'll learn it. You can learn it either through the sessions, you can learn it through just getting the program yourself if you're going to become a coach or something like that, or either behind the books.
Yeah, and the beautiful thing about the software is that it will give you the details and nuances of every single, what is the number called behind the decimal? The color?
Yeah, the color, what you mean, like the color, the tone?
Yeah, so like if I have, let's say you have gate 27.3 as opposed to 27.6. Mm-hmm. Well, it'll give all of those color, tone, and base. The software gives a bunch of detail that, as far as I know, correct me if I'm wrong, is not in any book. Mm-hmm. I don't think there's any book that could possibly, it would be a really long.
Yeah, I mean, the books have the detailed information.
But did they, for like, so say for gate 27, it can't possibly go through every iteration of gate 27?
Nah, it's just certain books. You have a couple of books. Some people within certain books, they'll speak on it. They'll speak on, they'll try to give you a lot of information within it, but it's just specific books. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, it just depends on what what it is that you're trying to do. So this is why I always want to just make sure you guys have questions. And when we're doing the sessions, to definitely ask those questions, because, you have to learn, your strategy and your authority, and you have to follow and work with the experiment of actually doing the work. So, it can get real, you just don't want to pile too much on your plate at first, but it's still extra important. But the next time we do speak, depending on how advanced or how far you are within the program, then you'll definitely get the information about the gates and things like that.
Yeah, and once both members of any type of partnership, well, with the exception of people having readings for their children, that's different. If you have a child that's too young to really understand, we do the reading with the parent. We obviously give you a recording. When the child is old enough, they can listen to the recording. But then you as a parent at least understand the basics of how to work with this young being. But if you have two, adults or young adults who want to have a connection chart reading, if they've at least each had one intro reading, then Kayvon offers the service of doing the connection chart reading. But we require that each person has had an intro reading first. Otherwise, there's no way to understand the connection chart if you don't understand your own chart. It will just be overwhelming, and it won't make sense. It's the contrast that comes together when you're with that person that is really the point of the chart. So we require that.
So, as you would get further along in it, you would know what these channels were. If you had maybe a second reading or a third reading, then you would know what certain channels are. And then when we do the connection chart, it's just there, you understand.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Okay. So we've done the companionship, dominance, compromise, and electromagnetic. You want to see if there's any more questions?
Yeah. Any more? Yeah.
So any more questions? Okay, hold on, Caroline. Hold on, I'm gonna mute everybody and then just unmute Caroline. Okay, go ahead, babe.
Hey, so last time I made generator 4-1, and I'd been in this relationship, my past relationship, for 15 years, and it was very complacent. It was very like homey vibe. It got to a point when I started doing medicine work that I knew that I had to move on. And it was kind of a trip because you mentioned the fact of contracts and our last discussion. And I had approached him before I even met you guys. And I told him our contract was almost up. And we both knew our contract was almost up. And so it ended. It didn't end so well with him, though. He went through this downward spiral, and it was really, really horrible for him. He's pretty good right now, though. And I went into this next relationship. I have a relationship now that has really been a challenge for me, even though it's the most beautiful relationship I've ever had in my whole life. He's 15 years younger than me, and he's amazing. He's, oh my God, like, he's so awesome. And through all of, working with my different parts that have made me want to run away from this relationship from the beginning. Like, I came into this relationship and I was just like, oh my God, like, anything that I could find that would give me a way out, I tried to do this, from the beginning. And I've been trying to run from this, this has been like going on 2 years. For the first year, I just tried to run to protect my heart, I believe. I'm not sure, but
that's a 4 theme.
Yeah. So, but he was just like, no, this ain't gonna happen. Like, I'm here. I've been brought here for you to experience this. Like, he's been the most amazing thing that I've ever seen in my whole life. like the way that he holds space for me.
Yes.
He holds space for me in ways that nobody ever has. And even to this day, I mean, I for some reason with this guy, I'm so jealous about everything. Like, I'm so insecure about everything. Like, I don't even know why. I mean, my higher self is just like so secure that it's just patiently watching me go through these trials and tribulations within my own self, to learn this particular thing with this person, because he holds such great space. He holds such great space for me, always. And yeah, so I don't even know what my question is, but it's
I can open this comment.
such a pinhole with it. Even though like my life is so amazing, and he's just so taking care of me, and it's like I've always done so much for everybody in this life and never would once ask anything for myself. And now it's like, I'm learning the lesson about you do for others, but you also have to ask for help too. It's the balance in this life. And so he's teaching me, I believe, that kind of lesson. And
yeah, and also just
why is it so hard to really like be in peace with somebody who completely fucking adores you and would do anything for you and is so grateful for you being in their life? Why is it so hard for somebody like me to accept that and to go with it and to be at peace with it and not be so like feeling like I'm going to be rejected and abandoned? Like, what the fuck? Like, what do I do?
Because the 4 cycles between the head and the heart. The 4 has this thing with a very sensitive, open heart. So the 4 likes to reject people before it gets rejected. And I know you've got stuff you want to say, so I'll let Kayvon comment, but then I'll come back in. We're going to answer both from a human design and an IFS perspective.
Yeah, but also because you're the one, when it comes to opening up, like, and you're on the fated path. So
because she's a 4-1,
she's a 4-1.
That's the one juxtaposition cross, meaning she has fixed fate.
Yes.
She's not a right angle, which is destiny, or a left angle, which is transpersonal karma.
Yes. So the fixed fate individuals, a lot of times, if you fix it within your mind that you don't deserve to be happy, or you fix it within yourself to where you have to have a certain strength, especially the 4-1s. The 4-1s can be extremely strong individuals, but also you can be extremely sensitive. And opening this new relationship, it's like this dude is totally just penetrating all of the barriers, and he's exposing your inner work, that one energy, and he's connecting with your subconscious energy, because you are on the fated path. You are supposed to meet this guy. You are supposed to deal with this guy. So this is someone who you're going to be able to open up to completely. And with that one energy, it's so vulnerable. It feels so shaky, that you can feel as if your whole entire vehicle would just topple over. But what it takes for you is just to slow down and to take your time. This is what it's really about. It's about you slowing down and taking your time and literally learning him from the ground up, learning everything about him, really, really ingesting his energy and sitting with it to see how you feel. And the way you speak about him, he's amazing. At the end of the day, that's what I totally take from the whole entire story. So at the end of the day, if he's amazing, that means he feels good. And we all know when it comes to that feeling, this is, we go off of that. It's not about what's in our mind. It's not about if we're rejected or not. He's not rejecting you. He's there. He's holding the space. he's showing you that he's trying to show you his stable foundation. And because you're 4-1, stable foundations and someone that's willing to be with you at the bottom of the process is extremely important. You know, and just from what I feel, it feels like, you know, this guy, you know, I would love to see you guys' chart together, you know, just to see, you know, what's going on within your relationship. But like I say, it doesn't even matter what these charts say. At the end of the day, it's how you feel. Depending, you know, if you feel like this is someone that's right for you, if you feel like this is someone that you can grow with or learn from, then that's what it's really all about. This life is about experience. It's about living the life. It's not about just, you know, just all hunky-dory and just ice cream and cake all day. You know, it's literally, it's a journey. And this journey has multiple levels. It has multiple spectrums. So it's okay to be rejected. It's okay to be accepted. It's okay to experience. But in your case, you're not experiencing none of that. Like, it's good. You know, it's I feel a warm energy. I just feel like, you know, you just have to know that you do have a vulnerable part within yourself. So you don't have to beat yourself up over it. You know, this is something that's just a part of you. You have this part that can be real giddy. It can be blown away. It experiences extreme awe.
The one.
Yeah, the one. So the one within you is in awe. And sometimes just being in awe can be overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
This is why you need to really slow down, because that awe is a very serious thing. Mm-hmm. And you won't be able to ground yourself if it becomes too much. And that's what you're afraid of. You're afraid of not being grounded with this individual.
Yeah, but the 4 is harmonically harmonic with the 1. The 1 is the foundation of the lower trigram, and the 4 is the foundation of the upper trigram. This is why the 4 likes stability, just like the 1. It's just like the stability of the second floor. So your profile has 2 numbers that like stability. The 1 seeks a solid foundation. The 4 wants the stability. Think of a table with 4 legs. Stability. So any relationship, even if it's all companionship channels, honestly, it's still going to trigger something, because you're still 2 different people coming together. And a lot of us, you know, I like Carolyn Meese's archetypal parts, the victim, the child, the prostitute, the saboteur. The saboteur likes to sabotage relationships. A lot of us have an inner saboteur that doesn't believe we're ready for certain things. It doesn't believe we can handle the responsibility of relationships, or it doesn't believe we're worthy, all these sort of things. And a lot of the mythology around like the twin flame phenomenon, a lot of that can apply to any relationship if you're ready to get real. It doesn't, you know, the whole twin flame versus soulmate, that's a whole other discussion for another time. But I don't care what label it is. I don't care if you're a soulmate, a twin flame. I don't care. I'm just talking about 2 people together. Triggers are going to happen. And because the vast majority of us grew up in families with a whole lot of not self activity, we have wounds, and relationships are going to bring them up. You know, we have this romantic idea about coming into a relationship. Oh, you know, I love you, you love me, we'll get together, everything will be great and hunky-dory. But what happens in actuality is these are vessels and containers for us to, you know, feel all this sort of stuff. Excuse me 1 second, guys. Yeah, so let me pick up the flow. So, yeah, so these relationships are like vessels for growth. But in order to grow, you know, the seed has to crack open in order for it to sprout, and that cracking open is uncomfortable. And it's ironic, but I know we've talked about this before, even in this group, I believe. You know, you think about this example of, you know, a rescued dog from some sort of, you know, dog fighting ring. If all it's known is, oh, wow, every time I interact with another dog, I'm getting attacked, you can put it next to the nicest dog in the world and around the sweetest humans in the world. That doesn't mean it's automatically going to start trusting. So these things take time, and our parts, just like our own relationship with our parts takes time. Good.
Yeah.
Our own relationship with our parts takes time because the parts need to learn they can trust self. Sometimes it just takes the time of one session. Sometimes, depending on how our managers and firefighters operate, it takes many, many, many sessions. And it's the same thing in a relationship. So as within, so without. So the beautiful thing and the challenging thing about relationships is you're triggering each other. Then outside of that, you trigger each other's parents, each other's siblings, each other's friends who are projecting onto you. You're projecting onto them. Now there's this whirlwind of stuff that's going on. So there's a lot of stuff that gets unearthed, and it's not for the faint of heart. I was speaking to someone yesterday about this. The Tibetan Buddhists, the males, they practice celibacy for years and years and years and years. The Dalai Lama is not in a relationship with a woman. In Tibetan Buddhism, the top level of mastery is when you finally have sex with a woman. But you're expected to go through years of celibacy before you get there, because just having sex with a woman is considered so destabilizing that you have to be a master even to engage at that level. But, here in the West and in the secular world, we're engaging all the time, just engaging away, like it's nothing, like you're changing your underwear or something. I mean, to different degrees, but a lot of us are, it's just a lot looser now in the modern world. So we're kind of sometimes going in a naive way. And I don't necessarily say that it's correct to go back to the old ways where, I spent some time in Australia, learning a lot about the Aboriginal traditions, and you did not go outside of very, very, very strict rules about who could even relate with each other. There's certain people that you weren't even allowed to make eye contact with. You couldn't speak with them, even if you're in the same room together. So there's real old strict ways governing this because it is so tumultuous and triggering. Now we're in, this Kali Yuga time where it's kind of like all up in the air. But with these tools, we can at least be aware of what's going on. We can make our subconscious a little more conscious at least, or at least know it's there and identify it. And that can help smooth it out. So for all of us, not just Caroline, but anybody, remembering to work on self-leadership, remembering your strategy and authority is everything, no matter how quote unquote compatible or incompatible your charts are.
Yes.
So thanks for your comment, question, Caroline. Anybody else? If not, we'll go on to the chat. Nothing else. Okay. So we'll go on to the next topic, which is these ones.
Yeah.
So I don't know what these are called. The connection numbers or something? Connection themes, I think they're called.
Yeah, I guess it would be the connection
themes. I think
themes.
these are called connection themes.
Yeah.
So when two people come together, the entity that's created will have specific centers defined and undefined. And that's what we're going to talk about now. So the first one we're going to talk about is called 9 and 0, nowhere to go. So this is when two people come together, and in coming together, it creates definition in every single one of the 9 centers.
Yes.
Do you want to speak, or should I?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and it's pretty. I remember when I was first looking at it, and I saw the 9 and 0, nowhere to go. I didn't know what the heck that meant, but what it means is, like she's saying, when you come together, for whatever reasons, all of the centers become activated and defined. So these type of relationships are going to be a lot more closed in, they're all closed off, because there's no room. So it's 9 and 0, nowhere to go, meaning there would be no room for any type of add-on, or when it comes to dealing with other people's energy. So, for example, if, you have this energy within your relationship, all of your centers are defined with you and your loved one, and then you have company over, or you have family over, then because you have nowhere to go. You have no extra room for any of the other energy to kind of sit within your aura. So what it'll cause is a lot of overload type of situations, you know, where your energy will just feel completely, you know, it will start to feel stressed because your system is pretty much taking on everything.
Yeah, it's like kind of like all 9 chairs are filled already.
Yes. And then you just keep piling in people, and now you just packed in. So eventually you're going to feel tight. You're going to feel closed off. You're going to feel as if you can't really move, or you can't really accomplish the things that you need to accomplish because there's so much stimulation. So a lot of people, if you've ever grown up in big families, you know, for instance, I know me growing up with my family, you know, it was before I moved in with Michelle, it was a big house. It was almost like 8 or 9 different people in there. So at that point, you're way beyond all of the centers being activated. You know, like you're almost all of the channels activated, you know, and having that type of energy, if you can maintain it and hold it, then you can do some major things with that energy. But for the most part, it'll start rubbing you the wrong way. It'll start to become overbearing. So, you know, whenever you find yourself in these type of situations to where you're feeling stuffy, then 9 times out of 10, you know, it can be that you guys' energy together already in your relationship is activated throughout all of the channels. And that's the relationship that you're having with whoever you're living with. It can be your parents, it can be your brother, your sister, your children, you know, depending on what activations they have, you guys all are imprinting on each other. So when you're dealing with open relationships or wanting to be in open relationships, having this energy will make it exceedingly difficult, to say the least. Yeah. Because you wouldn't have enough space within your aura, both of you guys' aura, to kind of add in that extra person. You know,
you'd have to be like totally consciously flexible. And like maybe if you were both 3s and you could do the bonds made and broken.
Yeah, it has to be totally, you have to be separated almost like on the other side of the country. Some craziness, you know, because depending on how long you've been in a relationship with your partner, your energy is still there. Like you guys, you know, if you sleep in the same bed and you make love to each other, your energy is intertwined. So even when you kind of go off on your own, you know, if you still have it in your mentality that, you know, that this relationship is supposed to be a certain way, you know, or if you're constantly even thinking about that person's energy is still wrapped up within your field. So it's still going to feel as if you're 9 and 0 and nowhere to go.
On the other hand, could it also be the phenomena where you see people and they say things like, oh, they're like 2 peas in a pod, where they just kind of branch off and do their thing and nobody can infiltrate and they're just off, like totally fulfilled?
Yes.
That is a possibility, as well.
Yeah.
So, you know, again, these are just, you know, phenomena. We want you to be aware that this happens because, okay, let me say more about this. Anywhere you have open and undefined centers, you seek out stimulation. Anywhere you have defined centers, you will kind of have an upper limit on your stimulation. This is why, like, people without a defined sacral, they say they don't know when enough is enough. When you do have a defined sacral, you do know when enough is enough. And I really noticed when we're on long car trips, the difference between a very open center being who literally cannot drive without stimulation versus me. Like if I'm driving by myself, I'll often spend a couple hours with no music on, or maybe a little bit of music with minimal programming, like it's just music, no words. And I will it'll be my time to kind of like decompress and not be stimulated. But Kayvon has 6 open centers, and Kayvon also has times where he doesn't want to be stimulated, but for the most part, those open centers are craving stimulation. So he's looking for it. Yes, he does not want to drive without music, without radio, without talking, without something.
It'll be too zony. It'll be,
yeah.
I'll
well,
get,
I could see how you could kind of feel like you just leave. Yeah, and because you are so good at leaving your body, you could just like float off.
Yeah, I'll totally.
It's like you seek the stimulation to keep you. Whereas with the defined centers, you kind of reach a point where it's like, okay, enough. Plus, I have the one brain, so I can get overwhelmed. But anyway, all of that is to help you understand what this is about with these, connection themes. 9 and 0 know where to go. All the centers are already defined. So none of the centers within that character that you form in the relationship, that character doesn't seek external stimulation very much. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, what about having a child with 9 and 0 parents? Well, you're going to have to be super conscious.
Yeah, you're going to be super, but also just detached.
Or maybe really, I feel like what you'd have to do is you'd have to, dad takes the child out on Saturdays to do one thing, mom takes the child out on Sundays. So you'd literally have to have like separate.
Or be totally zen.
Yeah, or be a master.
you
master
will have to,
Jedi.
You will have to step up to the plate and be able to literally master those energies. Meaning just be able to be calm enough, be able to breathe. You have to employ all of the techniques that you will need to employ to take as many rest breaks from the energy as possible. As far as just having just open space, depending on how many open centers you have or defined centers, like she say, you do have a limit with these defined centers because
mm-hmm.
you actively have control over that energy. So it's not like you don't know it has a limit. Mm-hmm. You just open centers. You really don't know. You don't know your limits.
And you tend to get addicted in those centers. Those are the centers that create addiction and wanting stimulation.
Yes. And if you have a relationship and you're in a 9 and 0 relationship, and you have open centers coming to it, but now these centers are all defined, you still may have the craving to need more stimulation. You will have to literally, the way I see it, you have to like go out on your own. Mm-hmm. But like she say, it can be those relationships to where they're so strong to where, one person can go out on their own, mm-hmm. totally, completely, and always find their way back, because you guys have that strong bond, when you guys' energy come together, and one of the benefits of having the 9 and 0 relationship is that all of the centers are defined.
Yeah.
You can accomplish anything you want. The planet,
yeah.
The reality is yours.
That's what I was meaning by like the peas in the pod thing. That could be an incredible team.
Yes.
If they are, working on a project together.
Yeah, it's true partnership coming together. Meaning you wouldn't need any outside sources or beings to help you get along. Like mm-hmm. between you two, you would be able to build whatever it is that you needed to build.
Yeah, you don't feel like something's missing.
Yeah.
And, I also would just like to interject here. I feel like we've all been programmed with a lot of impractical standards about how a family unit is supposed to operate. In human design, what I saw confirmed, I believe we're really designed to be raised by our grandparents. And there's a crazy stigma now when people have children and leave them with their grandparents, their mom and dad, the parents' mom and dad, and that's seen as being irresponsible and so forth. But if you look at energetically what happens when you're, let's say between the ages of like 20 to 45, childbearing years for a woman, you have lots of energy and lots of ability to kind of fulfill your destiny or purpose, right? Once you start hitting the older ages, you tend to be more grounded, more calm, less in that lusty desire, and I don't just mean sexually lusty, but just, the natural energy of needing to get out in the world. This is why there's been a lot of success with like old folks' homes being converted to nursery schools and daycares. It's a natural fit. Well, I was really noticing this and noticing that stigma and how silly it was. And then in human design, what they've discovered is that there's this pattern where designs and profiles tend to skip a generation. So we tend to be a lot more similar to our grandparents than to our own parents. Interesting, huh? So a lot of these programs we have about the, monogamous single family home that's supposed to operate as this happy unit where you have a man and a woman and who knows what gender children all kind of going around being happy together, doing the same things, homogenizing, is really ridiculous. Occasionally you can find some examples. Maybe everybody in the group is super tribal and not real individual. But for the most part, this is a real homogenized-ish idea that never existed before the modern world. We were a lot more tribal. Auntie, cousin, great-grandparents, everybody was involved in raising children. So just because two parents can't find something that they want to do with their child or children all at the same time and all be happy doing it doesn't mean the relationships are dysfunctional or it's a bad family.
Yes.
It's just a ridiculous, sometimes Kayvon and I can find stuff to do with Junior that we all like, but not always. And more often than not, we don't. Even with Junior trying to explain video games and stuff, I have to remind him, I'm not that interested. He used to try to get me to play them. He even made a character for me. And I was like, it's not in my energy, man. But the second you want to go hiking or for a bike ride or go to the beach, I'm there for you. Does that make me a bad stepmom? No, I'm just being real. And I feel like it's better to be real than to homogenize and try to make nice, Yes. So with the 9 and 0, I feel like it's important to know that if you are parents that are 9 and 0, don't beat yourself up because you're not, leave it to Beaver. It's not a realistic expectation. Do you want to say more? Or should we go to the next
that was
one?
excellent.
Thank you. 8-1, have some fun. So the next configuration is with 8 centers defined, 1 center undefined. In this configuration, you have 1 open or undefined center, and you share that openness there. So if you can find something that you both do love to do, that relationship can be really fueled and nurtured because you can go out, let's say you both have an open, whatever, G center. Well, that's probably, then it'll be really hard. You have so many options. But, whatever it is, something that you both like to fill that open center, undefined center with, then the relationship can, really prosper.
Then it opens up a little bit, it allows room for a little bit more flexibility. It's like we say, it's not good or bad. It's just understanding what you guys have and the options. This relationship can feel like, you got everything going on good except for this. You have just one thing missing. So
Yeah.
This can be that type of configuration to where you guys will constantly be trying to fill in this void. So at the end of the day, you have a lot of centers defined, but just that one, it's almost like that second place, that second place feeling like, you almost made it to first place, but no, you got second place. So,
But if you both really love visiting wineries or watching movies, or if you both really love the same thing,
yeah,
you can go and fill that center up together.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to backtrack. I'm sorry, Maya, I had missed your question. Since I'm a reflector, is it possible for me to be in a 9 and 0 relationship? Yeah, if you want to date Dr. Phil.
It is possible because there's some people out there with all the 9 centers defined.
We have two clients.
Yep.
It's not common. It might be more rare than a reflector, actually. I know more reflectors than fully defined people. I don't really know if there's statistics on that. But Dr. Phil is a famous person who's an example of all centers defined. So if a reflector got in a relationship with him, it would be a 9 and 0. Now, on the other hand, I have heard through the human design interwebs a story of, and I believe that they actually teach human design. There's a couple, both of whom are reflectors, and even when they come together, the entity created is still a reflector.
Ooh.
Wow. Wow. So that's like
Double.
Reflector Nation for real. And then Landon says, since I have 6 centers defined, it means most people I come to interact with and develop a relationship would likely increase the defined centers to 7, 8, or 9. Yes, unless you have the exact same centers defined, or unless it's a reflector. But even then, again, remembering,
depends on the connection.
Yeah, the definition requires a gate to come together. If you have one gate and they have one gate, you can create a defined center. So even a reflector could create a 9 and 0 situation with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So, yeah.
You ready for the next one?
Yeah, we can go to the next one.
The next one is called 7-2, work to do.
Yeah, and this is so, it's so funny. And just remember, with these themes, the reason why it's saying 7-2, work to do, and all of this, is because the energy is looking to complete itself. So the 9 and 0 relationship is like the culmination. It's like according to the energy, this is like the relationship. This is like the partnership. It's just, it can be sparky. It can be, it depends on what's going on. It takes a lot of patience. It takes, a lot of just being real with each other,
With the 9-0, you mean?
Yeah, with the 9-0, because you don't have a lot of flexibility. I just say, just depending on when that relationship was had or stepped into, it will determine a lot of what's really going on.
Yeah, you got to go in.
Relationships, but you have relationships before Saturn, pre-Saturn return, and then you have relationships post-Saturn return. And
you also have relationships entered into as the not self and entered into self-led.
Yes. So we have a lot of different
I've had a lot of not self relationships.
A whole lot. Yes.
And then you also have relationships that may start in the not self, but where through some divine grace, both partners are willing to wake up and work together and get into self-leadership. And then you've got everything in between. So.
And just remember, at the end of the day, it's about how we feel. And when it comes to just relationships, my mom just always told me this. It's so old, so old. So many fish in the sea. But it's so true. There's so many different types of fish in the sea. It's so many different types of individuals. We never, I really feel like we never make mistakes when it comes to this relationship thing. Because, you can dream people into existence. You can write people into existence.
Yes.
You can talk people into existence. The game never stops. You fall in love, you can fall out of love and then fall right back in love. You never know what, you never know how this life is going to really play out all the way. And that's a part of the appeal to just doing this, what we're doing, so at the end of the day, as long as I feel like we continue to honor our feelings and honor our truth, and to let each other know and to express to one another, how we feel and what we're into and what we're not into. And if we're brave enough to, speak our truth to each other, then I feel like all relationships will either grow, or they will diminish, but they will diminish in such a way to where both parties will grow because of it. So a true relationship, is one to where, you have experience. That's what they're all about. This is just all about experience. So, nobody should get, you don't want to get too distraught, or you don't want to get too antsy or amped up about our relationships with each other, because we're not separate anyway. We're connected on the most deepest level possible. On the spiritual level, we are connected. You ain't never going nowhere from nobody at the end of the day. But while we're pretending to, we're having these emotions and we're having these feelings and we're getting overloaded by people's energy when we're totally connected anyway. But it's just funny. It's funny to me when I really think about it. But we're in the game. So, we're playing this game for a reason. We're learning from each other for a reason. We're getting triggered by each other for a reason. So just dig deep, you know, to figure out what that is, and just be patient with yourself. And I feel like it'll all work out. Now,
so with this, I want to say more with the 7-2. So in answer to your question, Landon, yes, there is a rhyme for every one of them. So 7-2, work to do. What happens in the 7-2, you've got two undefined centers. So what tends to happen is one partner escapes out of one window, the other partner escapes out of the other window. So this is a relationship where the two people will constantly exit having work to do. Literally, I got to go do this, I got to go do that. So they'll go and work on separate things because there's these two centers. And if you think of those undefined centers as windows, imagine people kind of jumping out of different windows. So that's part of the reason it's called 7-2, work to do. So that can be either an excuse or it can be very healthy. Like, again, if threes are like the example for all of this, because for the 3, it's natural to make and break bonds. So Kayvon and I, he's a 3-5, I'm a 6-3. We have to break bonds. Like, we live in a house right now that's shaped in an L shape. So when I'm in my office, which is right behind this computer that you guys are viewing us from, he'll be all the way on the other end of the L in his office. I can't hear him. I can't see him. I can't smell him. I can't sense him hardly unless I really tap in. But I have to go super extra sensory to even know he's in the house. So we break the bonds, and as a 3, then in that distance, you can really kind of understand the bond and understand, you know, which bonds are valuable enough to not burn the bridge. So that's why I'm constantly using this. So if there were 3s in the 7-2 work to do, the 3 naturally likes to break bonds to go off to work during the day, for example, and then come back home at the end of the day. Now, if you're both 2 4s in a 7-2 work to do and you're living in a studio together, I don't know how that will feel. I don't know. Everybody's so different. But just know that with these 2 open centers, it tends to be a split. One person goes this way, one person goes another. So the next one, 6-3, better to be free. That is what Kayvon and I have. So if you see our charts together, even when we come together, we still have the will center undefined, the ajna, and the crown undefined. So, do you want to get started on this one?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
We obviously know a lot about this one.
Yeah, but you know, it's 6-3, better to be free. The open mind, open crown. Yeah, it's deep. It's deep. I kind of like it. I like it. It doesn't feel as pressured. You know, what I'm noticing about just having these open centers. You know, you just really, you really feel as if you have like a lot of open space. I really feel as if like I have a lot of freedom. Like she say, our offices are on totally different sides of the house. So you have all of this space. So it's kind of like this, you know, the 7-2, one can go this way, one can go this way. But then there's this other door that's still open to where it can allow someone to come in. Mm-hmm. And we're always having like different guests just show up, or different people. It's always, it is like that with us. It is like always, it's like this open space for like somebody to just come in, and then it's like they're like family within our little unit. So you know, these themes it's so real. Like it still blows my mind, you know, that the rhyme is actually true. You know, it's the 6 and the 3 and better to be free. But I feel super flexible within this energy, and when you have this energy, it'll create that. It'll create, you know, that flexibility, but also I feel like you can run into the you know, to the realm of totally being distant.
Yeah, you can get really distracted.
Totally distracted.
The 6 and 3, and that's, I guess, probably why he calls it better to be free too, because it's almost like it has to be an open relationship.
Yes.
Even if it's not like actively sexually open all the time with like lots of other, you know, boyfriends or girlfriends, it has to be open. Even if it's just, you know, emotionally open, mentally open, physically, sexually, whatever, you know, everybody has to figure out what's comfortable for them. And we would definitely encourage anybody to be as honest with yourself and your partner as possible about that.
I just was laughing
good
at
for
Landon.
threesomes.
Landon's good.
It actually would be the ideal one for threesomes, yeah, or foursomes or fivesomes. Yeah, you have three centers. So
you have the three open centers, so it's literally it's like the party. You know what I mean? But it's just funny because it still plays into the personalities. Like, so depending on the personalities of the people involved, it's open, but it's not just open to any old body, you know, any old person. But at the end of the day, it can be, you know, very, you know, like you say, distracting. You know, you can really go off into your own tangents because of the open space. So you have to really what I'm learning about it is it really makes you think about the other person.
Mm-hmm.
Because it can be, you know, I swear I can be probably over there on the other side of the house for like a week, you know, and then it'll literally, you know, because of the separation, you know, what I feel like is good sometimes to have your energy separated, because you get a chance to like miss them. You know, you get a chance to like not have them around and then really feel what it feels like to not really be in that person's energy.
Mm-hmm.
So you really get to gauge the benefits of that individual. So, you know, that 6-3, better to be free, it kind of allows you to, it can allow you enough space to look at each other, you know, while still, but also because I just say with the 6 energy, you know, it's 2 trinities. Mm. It's the authority energy. So, you know, you can still have a strong relationship, but having that opening for someone else to come in, whether it's having deep convos or whether it, you know, it end up being sexual, who knows? But, you know, following your strategy and authority, you won't even have to really be confused about it.
Yeah.
Your higher self will let you know exactly how each interaction you should have. Like, you can just ask yourself a series of questions, and if you're true and honest with yourself, you'll know who can and who cannot enter into the space. So this type of relationship requires extreme self-leadership, and it requires a lot of trust. Mm-hmm. Because of the openness. You know, you can really go off into another world, like I say. And if you don't trust your partner, then you'll have a lot of issues, you know, within your relationship. It can easily be either infiltrated by someone, or, you know, you can easily, you know, exit the scene, you know, because you can be pulled away by someone.
Yeah, if, you know, this is kind of reminding me too of just the issue of like when you have issues in your relationship, being mindful about how you process that. If you're in a 6-3, better to be free, and you get upset with your partner and you go talk to a million different people about it, it could really create a rift that could kind of end things. So I feel like in the 6-3, well, I mean, really in all of them, you know, but especially if you've got a lot of openness, it's real important to, when you're developing self-leadership, part of that is being willing to work out your issues with the person you have an issue with, rather than just talking about it with other people and never actually confronting it with the person. And that's something, I feel like that is one thing we've been really good about. Mm-hmm. Maybe almost too, like, I feel like we almost like overdo that.
What, speaking out?
Yeah, well, there's just been times where we literally had nobody else to speak to but each other. Yes. Like those times living in Colorado, we've spent a lot of time in severe isolation when we lived in the mountains. And, you know, we also just were really conscientious about not gossiping about our relationship with other people. So I think that kind of helped keep it, you know. But the 6-3, if you're good at doing your own thing and then connecting in, you know, kind of periodically with your partner, then this is a perfect configuration for you. If you don't like that, like, I think this would be a difficult relationship if we were split definitions.
Yes.
The split definition really seeks the other to bridge their splits. So remember, in case you don't know, a split definition is when you have a group of centers that are connected and then another group of centers that are connected, but no channels to bridge those groups. So for example, if you had the throat and ajna connected, but then you had no G center activation, and then you had the sacral and root and nothing in between, that would be an example of a split definition. People who are split definitions, they seek someone to connect up those lines so that the communication can go throughout their system. Kayvana and I are both single definitions, and we're both threes. So for us, having separate time and being alone is very comfortable. Yes. But if we were split definitions who needed the other all the time to really feel whole, I don't know if, I think the 6-3 would be super challenging because, unless we agree to invite other people in all the time, then maybe it would be great as a split definition.
Yeah. So even in, and that's good. It's just funny that you say that, because I can see how when you're talking about the true open relationship will be a 6-3, better to be free with split definitions.
Yeah.
That will be the true open relationship. It will be easily understood by both parties that another energy is needed within the set to kind of complete them.
Mm-hmm.
Because innately, when you're a split definition, you innately know that someone else is needed. You're not here to do this journey alone. So if you do have a split definition within your chart, this is a key indicator that you are not here to do it alone. Mm-hmm. Now, the single definitions, this is the lonely track. Sometimes you can really feel as if you are out there on your own until you learn that spirit. You have to really learn what spirituality is. You have to really understand that you are a reflection of God. If you don't understand that you are a reflection of the Creator, then you're going to be always searching outside of yourself for something to give you that feeling, of connectedness. We can't play no other game because we're not splits. So we're not going to be that needing of the other person.
Yeah, and I definitely noticed I do not feel like a split definition. Interesting, my Saturn returns is a split definition, so that I noticed that because I noticed how once Saturn return came in, my ajna and crown are defined in the Saturn return transit, but it doesn't connect in. So I noticed how I could get off like into mental stuff and disconnect from the body.
And it's the same with me also. And I noticed when my Saturn return came in, I knew that I was going to need a partner.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that
Mm-hmm.
that I was going to need a partner.
Mm-hmm.
So I can feel that split from that Saturn return energy.
Mm-hmm.
Because the split definition, it literally it's like the energy of cooperation.
Mm-hmm.
It's so that you are forced to cooperate with the other being.
Yeah.
It's pretty much
and that probably is why I'm not living by myself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I have, I've got 5 defined centers. I'm very, very content, and the 1 brain also, and the 6. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why, but I'm very content. I could spend days. I've lived by myself in the mountains for months at a time. And I remember how interesting it was because I'd go and stock up on lots of food, and I wouldn't speak to another human being sometime for almost 2 weeks. And then I'd go to take my garbage to the dump. And when people would talk to me, it was so weird. It was like, what are you doing? So I'm comfortable in that. But I noticed that split definition people, they don't even really seem to have much of a desire to do that. So I would say if you are a split definition, I would encourage you to discipline yourself, though, from time to time to break off, to separate, so you can clean out your undefined centers and just release the conditioning of other people, because you will take that in. If you're also, just as a side note too, with all of this stuff about open relating, if you have an open G center, you have like a wider range of experience of the other than those of us with a defined G center. So I'm pretty much this character no matter who I'm with. I mean, there's other factors going on too. The 3 is mutative. The 1 can be a chameleon. So I have a 1 brain. But my experience is very much kind of set because of my defined G center. Kayvana, on the other hand, if he was really, really to activate the open relationship thing, every woman he's with, it's going to be a very different experience, just on all levels, including sexually, especially with the open sacral, open G center. So his the range of variation he can experience is much greater than I can with more defined centers, and in particular the defined sacral and G center.
Yes.
So that's just an aside. You ready to go to the 5-4?
Landon.
Oh.
He was saying if we're past the Saturn return point, should we be mostly considering our new chart or still the original one when analyzing combined relationships? And that's a good question,
yeah.
But yeah, it's going to be the original. It's always going to be the original, because the Saturn return is just like the weather. It's not your, I mean, you know, it's definitely it definitely affects you all the way, but it's not your, you know, your character, your specific makeup, your main characteristics.
You could get really mental, and we have.
Yes.
You know, looking at how your Saturn return charts, you know, interact and stuff. But it is the natal original chart that's really of concern. But, you know, just as with any person you're getting involved with, you know, whatever karmic gifts or detriments they have, if you're having sex with them, you're taking that on, and vice versa. So you may be getting gifts that weren't necessarily yours before, but then you may also be getting challenges that weren't yours before. So
yes.
all of that, and I would widen that to include things like what their Saturn returns is, what their, as you've experienced the Uranus opposition, like that is, you know, my experience is actually, I've found it to be harder than the Saturn returns, just personally. My Saturn returns was exciting. It was a little bit weird because I did think at one point I was going schizophrenic, moving into the 4 energy. But for the most part, I would say that was actually probably the happiest time in my life. Whereas the Uranus opposition, you know, the Uranus energy is like dealing with, you know, like the sexual urge versus the death urge. And it's when that death urge really starts to like tug on you and test you, like, okay, are you going to live or die here? It's like what we call the midlife crisis. For me personally, I know Saturn returns can be really tough. I hate to say it, but I think the Uranus opposition is tougher. So if you're young, if you're in your 20s or early 30s, get that self-leadership going now so that your Uranus opposition can be smoother. But do you want to say, oh yeah, Maya had a question about the triple split definition. Her twins are triple split. The irony of the triple split is they really feel like they don't need anybody.
Yeah.
Because they're like 3 people inside of themselves, which I think is so interesting. So when we say split definition, we're just talking about 2 groups of centers that don't communicate. Triple split is you have one group that's connected, a second group of parts that connect, and a third group of parts that connect. But these 3 groups don't connect with one another. So and people with that, they do kind of feel, and we have a friend who has that, and she even has names for these different, which she had before she'd ever heard of human design. She's like, oh, you're talking about so-and-so. Oh yeah, that's so-and-so and that's so-and-so. She knew them. She named them already. So.
Yeah, so the triple split individuals, they can really develop the attitude of being able to do it on their own and not needing anyone. But they still have this urge to have someone, because this is, you know, everyone wants to be loved. Everyone want to have, you know, that person that they can relate to. But being a triple split, you know, a lot of times your energy it can really feel self-fulfilled within itself. You know, so these individuals, you really want to teach them, you know, and really, you know, help them to learn how to love themselves even more, because this is a strength for them to be able to be complete within yourself, but still have those splits and still appreciate the connection of others. That way they won't give off that, oh, I need you. But these people, you will totally look and you'll be like, no, you totally need me. But
yeah, they do. And they really, just as any split definition, anyone benefits, because the whole idea is when you get around people that bridge the split, there's a clarity and there's a, you know, you come into wholeness as opposed to being split up.
Yes. So it's always going to be a benefit.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, you know, we're really looking to follow our strategy and authority. So the issue with what I see with splits, and I noticed this with IFS before I knew there was such a thing as a split, that certain clients had a propensity to really get stuck in certain parts, like, and really, like, I feel like I have a lot of parts that they kind of all know what's going on in each other. Some people have parts that really don't know what's going on in other parts. And I know one friend of mine who's also a client, she's a split definition who has a defined ajna. And she would literally like agree to jobs and sign contracts and then wake up and be like, what am I doing here? Because she wasn't listening to her gut. Her mind was taking over, and she's supposed to be listening to her gut. So when you have those split definitions, you got to really be on the ball about your strategy and authority, because you can have a whole team that's totally disconnected from your authority that sets up a whole life for you, and then you wake up like, how did I get here? So for me, at least by having a single definition, every part is connected to my sacral authority, whether I listen to it or not, you know, whether my open mind, you know, takes over is one thing, but at least I have the opportunity for everything to be unified in communication. Kelly, we'll get to your question at the end because it's a Saturn return. And Caroline, we'll get to your question after we're done with the 5-4. There's just one more, and I want to cover that, and then we'll do all the questions because I want to complete these. So the final, are you ready for 5-4?
Yeah.
The final connection chart theme, I guess it's called, is 5-4, not a relationship anymore. So 5 centers defined, 4 centers open. There's so much open centers. You're just off and off, and you're over there. Party. Yeah, this is the 5-4 is the ideal side chick or like sugar daddy you have on the side. That's perfect. You can have your thing, you have your little thing, whatever it is, but you're not relying on each other to be the, what do they call, the primary partner. You're not trying to live in some monogamous, this 5-4, you can't be monogamous.
No, it's totally.
You can't, sorry.
There's not enough glue holding it together.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I would never say can't. I don't know what you can or can't do.
Yeah.
It would be really challenging because those 4 open centers, they want to get fed, and you can't provide that. Now, maybe if they had a big family with a lot of children, that might be the, maybe
that
this
may
is
be
the couple that has the 10 children.
Yeah, that is the couple that
or
has
at
10
least
children.
4 to fill those 4 open centers.
Yeah, that's the only way I'll be able to see that one happening. But I don't even know, because when you're dealing with the man and the woman, you know, it's literally each other. Like, you're gonna want more stimulation. Like, you're gonna want that other, like, adult stimulation, not only just with the children.
Yeah, yeah.
So, or just with the energy around you. You know, you have these urges to. You literally have these urges to, like, kind of go off and explore more. So it's like an open hallway, you know, it's like just whoever is walking in and out, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that 5 and 4 are not a relationship anymore. I would say, you know, those probably are just friendships, maybe good friends.
Yeah.
You know, those good, you know, super good friend relationships.
But again, depending on, you know, if you're really in flexible polyamory, you know, that relationship would kind of have to be in. So if you really want to be in polyamory, then look for you know, I don't want to say that, that's way too mental. Anytime you're like trying to find somebody based on a chart, you're not following your strategy and authority. So
yeah.
But if it so happens that you're in a 5-4, and you like the idea of being polyamorous, that could, you know, that partner would probably energetically be inclined to understand why you feel that way, because they're also going to notice the openness. And like everybody else with an undefined center, their undefined center is going to be hungry for stimulation. So they could probably do really well with polyamory if they're comfortable with it. And again, you know, everything comes back to, like Kayvon said, how do you feel? I mean, yes, we're in a totally open relationship, which we almost never act on because we just, it's not like we're miserable with each other and trying to run away from each other and trying to fix problems using other people and other relationships because we can't relate.
Yeah.
So
it's,
you know,
it's not really.
That's not what's going. It was more like what it came down to was even without talking about this, we didn't even talk about the 6-3 thing till after we became open.
Yeah.
It's just we got to the point where we realized the only thing that could possibly break our relationship was cheating. And we didn't want anything, any cause, anything that could be a reason for us to end the relationship. And we just, you know, Kayvon and I were just like, let's just be honest about this need, and let's just, you know, say that it's not a taboo anymore. And it's funny because, to be honest, I think that having other relationships outside of Kayvon was way more appealing when we were trying to be monogamous. And once we became open, like, it just really, it's so much less. I'm not saying it's not appealing at all, but it's just, yeah, it's less.
I don't know. It's like the pressure went away, or
yeah.
I don't even know. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it.
There's nothing that needs to be hidden.
Yes.
There's no taboos. There's nothing that needs to be hidden. There's nothing I could bring to him. You know, obviously, you know, I'm not going to kill anybody. He's not going to kill anybody, you know, so that's like taboo number 1. Taboo number 2, you know, cheating. There's nothing that I could do that would cause Kayvon to say it's over, and vice versa. So I feel like it's made us closer. You know, it's made the relationship a lot stronger.
Yes, definitely. Definitely.
And I feel like it's kind of like, it's making me think of those accordion buses they have. It's like you can get around anything because there's that added flexibility. So I just feel like it's for us, you know, but keep in mind, we're the 6-3. We're also both 3s. I'm a 3 unconscious, which is a very promiscuous number because it's trial and error. Kayvon is a 3 personality. That's 70% of his design. So the 3 is kind of used to bumping into a lot of people. You know, the 4, as we discussed last week, it's interested in polyamory, but is also very exclusive. So yes, you got to do what feels right for you. And again, you know, we decided to open up the relationship, but then it's not like suddenly then we were dating a bunch of different people. It just was sort of like a relaxation and trust enhancer.
Yeah, it definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
okay.
I guess we can answer that question.
She has the Saturn return, and then we can ask Caroline her question. So, does diet change with the Saturn return chart? So I would like to say something about all the transit charts.
Mm-hmm.
The transit charts are like weather systems that will be in your life for a certain period of time. Saturn returns is like a 30-year period. It's a weather system. You can feel it. It can influence you. If you're not conscious, you can really get swept up in the not self energy that it will provide. But your diet is based on your natal chart.
Yes.
As is really everything else.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, for example, my Saturn returns, my Chiron, and my Uranus opposition are all 4-6 profiles. So I am a 6-3, but I'm like in a 4-6.
It's like your arms and legs are 4-6s.
Yeah, like it just yeah. I'm constantly around 4-6s. I would say of all the clients, the 4-6s, even though I don't think any joined this group, because they just opportunistically hang around us all the time.
Yes.
4-6s love us. Like our biggest fans are 4-6s that will like come and hang out with us and not want to leave, and they want to like live with us. One of my best friends growing up was a 4-6, so it was like I was being prepped for it. So it's like I'm constantly exposed to the energy. The contrast to the 6-3 helps me grow and be a better 6-3. But at the end of the day, I am not a 4-6.
Mm-hmm.
So
yes. Saturn
returns, diet.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know why it's so dry. Like my eyes keep.
Do you have water? Need some more water?
But yeah, it's okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Should I ask? Do you want to say anything more about the Saturn returns, or should I ask Caroline?
No. It's okay.
Landon is looking at us through a magnifying glass.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Third eye activation.
Bing. Okay, Caroline, I'm going to unmute you if you have your question. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I do. So it was a couple of episodes ago that you guys were talking about my profile, my 4-1 generator thing, and you were saying that that we're polyamorous and that we're not very sexual, and I really didn't feel either one of those whatsoever. Like, I'm not, to be honest, in my relationships to be like outside of them, and I'm very sexual towards the people that I truly love and I connect with. So I didn't really understand those things about my profile, and it kind of just threw me for a loop.
So yeah,
so I didn't understand that.
Yeah, remember with all this stuff, we're speaking in a homogenized way. So there's entire books about like the different gates and sexuality. Sexuality in human design is incredibly nuanced. So you want to speak on it?
Yeah. It's just when you say that you're not sexual, like openly sexual.
I am sexual.
Yeah.
But not
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but
you're not like a 3. Like a 3 will just do it with anybody.
No, I can't do it with anybody.
That's what we think.
Like with my man, like I'm sexual. I'm very sexual with him.
Yeah, within a safe, exclusive arena.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm not polyamorous where I want to just be with all these different people.
Well, because the 4 is so much about networking, even if they're not sexually polyamorous, they need to be typically emotionally polyamorous because the 4 is so social. The 4 is the most social of all the numbers. You need
that
because the network is where all your opportunities come from.
Right.
So if a 4 wanted to be monogamous, they would still have to have a partner who is flexible enough that the monogamy can allow them to have a lot of outside friendships and connectivity.
I have that.
Yes.
Yeah. I have that, but I don't allow it. It's so weird, like, because I don't allow it in my sense because of where I am. But it's with the IFS, that's where it's going on right now. So that's where the imbalance for me is, because I can see what that is. Every day now that I go into meditation, I do this, the theta healing, where you go into the earth and the spaceship. And so the spaceship used to only hold 1, but now I bring in my 6-year-old and my 12-year-old. So I make it into a 3-seater, and they love it. They love going into the earth. They love smelling it. And they like going through the different dimensions, getting to the 7th and seeing me do the work, and then going back into my head, into my body, and seeing everything aligned and perfect each day before we go forth, because now they trust me in a sense to know that I'm doing the work to make myself way more available in a holistic way than I did before. And so they're part of that now. They're part of going into the earth. They're part of going on the spaceship. They love it. They used to, in the beginning, pull at my, I'd go into meditation and invite them in, and they would just be pulling at my leg, like, come on, let's go into the spaceship. And now they're just completely in this trust. It's almost like this, like we trust you now. Like, we trust you to, and the IFS really worked in conjunction with the whole other thing that we're doing here. Like, for me, that was more important, that I connected with that first, with the trust issue, before I even went in to really learn about the other aspects of myself. Because you have to have all the people on board to help you do the work to get to the place where you need to be, where, now I have that, that root thing that's not defined. So now every morning that I'm off work, I do root chakra workings. I just go on YouTube and I listen to all the amazing music that defines the root chakra to make that whole. And so, we don't have to, my thing is, we don't have to be like super undefined or defined in one thing. If we're defined in one thing or undefined in one thing, we can really work on what it is that we're not defined in, to strengthen that part of our body, and to be in line with that. And Yeah, I'm just so grateful because, you know, by me knowing myself, even if I go in with my partner, as this is a conversation tonight, in a place where I am not fully present and I'm tripping because he's doing some shit and it may even be immature, I can still come the next day and be like, you know what? Super sorry about that. But this is, you know, where I am right now. And thank you for being my mirror. And thank you for showing up for me in that way. And thank you for holding space to let me express this part of myself that isn't defined. You know, that in a sense, I am working on. We're never defined or undefined in one way, I think. I mean, these are also, you know, these are all ways for us to truly like be a whole person, you know, whether we're undefined or defined, whatever. If we're defined as something, great. If we're undefined as something, look for things that define you in that. You know, root chakra, look for things that, you know, really build that up. Or if you're in a relationship that's not defined in some way where you're showing up unreasonable, then be honest with that. Don't, you know, don't just be like just a subject in it, or just, you know, just, I don't know, like just so like not defined. Just work on ways to define yourself in that, I think, at least, because, you know, the things that I'm not defined in right now in this relationship that this person is holding such great space for, I am really looking for ways to define myself in that. You know,
yeah, that's why everybody, regardless, I mean, even the single definition people with lots of, even Dr. Phil, okay? I don't know if he's a single definition or not, but all his centers are defined. He still needs other people. He needs his wife. He needs his production team. You know, we're all here to work with others. It's just there's varying degrees of need and like magnetic pull towards that. But yes, you know, the open centers, remember the open and undefined centers are where we're here to grow wise.
Yeah. So naturally the open centers, they're going to be the centers where you're learning from anyway. You won't even have the desire you won't have the same desire to open up or to learn certain things within your defined centers. All of your desires to become defined is coming from your open centers.
Yeah, and in fact, I can think my defined G center, I'm not interested in learning how to be flexible there. And I've had to learn some of that. You know, my partner is open in the G center, and I see how different that is. And I've had to learn about that, but I'm not, you know, I have kind of a set sense of myself and my direction, and I'm interested in staying with that. And Kayvon is, you know, constantly offering suggestions, shall we say, about being more flexible, but I'm not really that interested in changing my direction, which is why I've honestly had a really hard time maintaining partnerships for more than like 3 to 4 years, because I feel like I have this sense of myself and identity and direction, and I can't expect anybody to adapt around that. So I always felt like I had to be like the lone wolf, you know, doing that. But then, you know, Kayvon has all these open centers, so he is flexible, and he's actually okay with being flexible because those centers want different types of new stimulation. So, you know, there's somebody for everybody.
Yeah.
But,
and, you know, and we're going to constantly be growing and transforming and transmuting along this whole journey. So, you know, as long as, you know, this is why we always fall back on our strategy and authority. At the end of the day, you know, just as long as you're honoring yourself, if you are allowing your higher self to take the driver's seat, you know, you can, you know, your personality, it has very little to do other than to respond, or, you know, or unless you're a manifestor, and, you know, that will be to inform. So most of us are either informing or responding. You know, even with me, the projector, waiting for my invitation, I'm responding. You know, that's a sort of a response. You know, I can't really do anything until I'm invited. So, you know, and the reflector is waiting, you know, those 28 days to finally give a response to something. So the majority of us, you know, we're responding.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and and depending on whether you're open or defined, you know, this is what's going to give you your motivation, what's going to, you know, light the fire up, or, you know, or determine whether you're going to be the type of person that will need certain amounts of stimulation or not. So we want to go to anyone else? Anyone else?
Yeah, anybody else? Thanks, Caroline. Anybody else?
Thank you.
But yeah, I mean, to Caroline's point too about the IFS, I feel I've said it before, but just to say it again so that it's clear, this is why I felt that the IFS should come in the first month, so that you get to know these parts and you're kind of going in and seeing your system without too much mental projections, assumptions, and knowing. I remember doing an IFS workshop at one of the annual conferences once, and the guy was combining the principles of physics with IFS. And one thing he really wanted us to notice is that the more certainty you have about something, the less flexibility you have, the fewer possibilities you have. So he was giving us all these really interesting questions to ask about a part in order to get to know it better. Instead of going in certain and kind of just going through the motions of the, you know, typical IFS, you know, if this part were a color, what color would it be? If this part had a flavor, what flavor would it be? If this part sang a song, what song would it be? If this part were, you know, a piece of clothing, what would it be? So going in with that feeling that you don't already know actually yielded really surprising results that allowed me to get to know the part much deeper, and therefore serve that part more quickly and more fully and completely, because I didn't have certainty and I wasn't going in with this mental belief that I already knew everything. And that can be the danger with human design. I mean, I do see that even happening with us sometimes, where he's like, well, you're this and you're that, so we should be like this. And I'm like, yeah, well, I feel like crap though, so this is not working. So I mean, Kayvon is like, you know, a human design master, you know, so if anybody knows about human design, Kayvon is definitely somebody I trust to know about it. But even with all that knowledge, at the end of the day, it has to come back to asking my gut.
Yes.
Do I feel like doing this? Yes or no? And at the end of the day, Kayvon is going to be emotional. And some days, even with all his human design knowledge, he'll swear up and down that it's a yes because he's on the top of his wave. And I'm like, okay, I got to remember he's emotional, and I just got to wait it out, because this might be a yes tomorrow, but my gut is like, this is not a yes.
Oh, no, I'm very aware. Look, yeses, temporary yeses is what they're called.
But what I'm saying is that, you know, even knowing all the human design, it doesn't absolve you from having to ride out the wave.
No.
It doesn't absolve your wave from sometimes really enticing you to thinking it's a yes, or feeling like it's a yes, or that it's a no. Yeah. You know, sometimes it happens the other way too, where you're like, no. And I'm like, I'll say yes tomorrow.
Yeah, and then eventually it will. And I was just speaking on this today, you know, depending on where, if you're emotional, sometimes your wave can start at the bottom. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it can start at the top. So, you know, just always remembering, you know, that we can never make a decision at first. It's never, we'll never be able to make that spontaneous decision as that emotional being, you know. And it's important. I don't even want to make any spontaneous decisions anymore. Mm-hmm. That doesn't turn me on. Mm-hmm. I love to wait. I love to let me get back to you. I love saying that. You know, it's perfect for me.
It's very empowering when you're emotional. And I saw somewhere, I don't know if it was Ra or someone else who recommended, if you have a defined solar plexus, you're emotionally defined, to keep a journal of your emotional wave. Because every emotional wave is different. They're actually distinct, unique emotional waves that they've identified. Again, this is getting super mental, but some emotional waves go like this. Some of them go like this. Yeah. There's different patterns they've identified.
Some of them actually go sharper, all the way up, and then you just drop. So
yes, I think that's yours.
Some emotional waves we kind of climb.
Yours
climb.
Is the one that drops, isn't it?
And then it just drops.
Yeah, it's like, hey, whereas
and
others are a little more subtle.
Mm-hmm. You know, but at the end of the day, what I notice is whether you go up and you drop or whether it's just like that wave, you still gotta wait. I mean, I think it's the equilibrium that we're looking for as emotional beings. We're looking for the point to where we're not feeling high, we're not feeling low, and we're feeling very dry. It's a very dry feeling, a very dry yes, a very dry no. And you know, this is when
sober.
Yeah, it's very sober, and you'll know when you're, you know, when your higher self is dropping in that yes or that no.
The person who suggested the journaling, what they said was this will help the emotionally defined being learn about their pattern, just so that they can understand like the timing involved for their particular emotional wave.
Yes.
Just to help them know how to work their own, you know.
Yeah, no,
so it doesn't.
That's a very important thing.
Yeah, so no matter what your emotional wave is, it's still the same role, waiting till you come to the still point. But just by documenting it, and it's ironic because when I read about that, I remember trying to do that myself when I started my yoga teacher training in my mid-20s, because I was amplifying all these emotions around me. And I tried, this 3 in me, the scientist in me, was trying to chart it and figure out what the heck was going on. And then after a while, I abandoned the project because I was like, well, there's no rhyme or reason here, because it wasn't my emotions anyway, you know. But if you are emotionally defined, you do have a pattern, so it behooves you to get to know your unique pattern.
Yes.
Anybody else with questions in the chat, or you can raise your hand electronically or physically if you are on video. But otherwise, we can
and we can
bring it to a
tool.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been a blast. It's been a pleasure working with you guys this whole month. Going over these human design energies and this information, and just know that the alchemy process has now been started. The dark night of the soul has been activated. So starting this information, if it's definitely new for you, then you just have to, you know, that your cells are transforming at this very moment. Portals of opportunity, prosperity, and abundance are opening up at this very moment. With love and light, we wish you guys a great and happy good night.
I have to say something about that, though.
Go ahead.
So to make it clear, because I don't know if we've ever specifically shared this, there's an actual alchemical process in the 7 years when you first learn your human design. And it starts with the Negredo and goes through the stages of alchemy year by year. So each of the 7 years is a specific alchemical phase. I wish that I had known this, so I want you to know it, because your first year of knowing your design is the Negredo, aka the dark night of the soul. It is a normal part of it. If you're aware of it, it can give you some distance, kind of like knowing the difference between part and self, so that you know that it's just part of the process, and it's kind of like having another Saturn returns. Whatever's not serving you is going to fall away. But it is going to get better. It does get easier every year. The 3.5 year point is kind of a magical point, and then after 7 years it repeats, but it cycles up. So each time you go through the cycle, it's from, you know, an easier, more masterful place. And then before we say goodnight, I also just really want to say thank you to Kayvon for just going in on this human design stuff. Because, you know, I do these webinars with him because I've got the defined throat and defined sacral, so I'm like adding energy. But Kayvon is really, as you know from your private sessions, he really is the human design guy. And I just really want to thank you for, you know, specializing in this, because I know how much it's helped me, and I know from the feedback how much it's helping everybody. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. And thank you all. Thank you all for, you know, just trusting in our energy and working with us. And we want to continue to work with you guys for as long as we need to. And and just before we go, you know, lucid dreaming.
Oh yes, get ready.
Get ready.
Get some dream journals.
Get some dream journals. Get your dream journals ready. Get your mind right. Get your body ready, because we are about to cross over into the other dimension, And, you know, so these are the gates. These are the gates that we talk about. The first gate was that IFS, going in and clearing out the energy to make space. The second gate, the human design, learning yourself even deeper, so that you can have, you know, so that you can know your importance, you know, to understand that you do have tools. Now, it takes a while to unload and to unwind and to download these tools to get all of the knowledge, but at least we know it's here now. So there's no more confusion when it comes to questions that need to be asked or answered. We can ask them and there are going to be answers. You know, in the third month with the lucid dreaming, you know, this is the gate to get over your fears. This is the gate to really release fear, you know, especially the fear of death. This is one of my specialties. This is something that I am really serious about, because if you have a fear of death, then that means you still have the fear of failure creeping in on your energy. So once we conquer our fear of death, we will conquer our fear of failure or rejection or abandonment, because once you cross over, you will see. You will feel what it feels like to be in your higher energy. So I am looking forward to working with you guys and connecting with you all, you know, from here on out, you know, until it's done, until it's time for the next mission. So with that being said, much love and much life.
Thank you.